target students that need the extra help first, and then we kind of open it up to everybody else. And we don't charge families anything, and we try to provide them a great experience in the summer academically and social emotionally, because we just know a lot of our students need that support during the summer as well. So we really like the fact that we're able to work with so many of our students during the summer. So we really appreciate your help in letting us do that.
First, I guess we'll just go over all that stuff that I gave you when you first walked in. This is our current, as of now, the roster with Section A. It has all the teachers and who will be in each class, as well as I believe it has a little chart of where they are at right now. This big bulky thing, this is what all the parents are going to get once their registration is confirmed. They're going to get this on Friday. This is just kind of all over stuff that we go over, so it's going to have afternoon stuff as well. It doesn't really pertain to you, but I figured it'd still be helpful that you know what we're doing and what the parents will be seeing. And these nice big green folders that I put my blood, sweat, and tears into. On this side right here, we have the contact list. This is my name as well as my phone number and my email. You can text me at any time. I would actually really love it if all of you could text me before you leave. That way I have your phone numbers for any emergencies. If for some reason we're not able to go somewhere. Like as of now, I know we're not allowed to use the outside playground one of the days because of Safety Town, but I put that on the calendar. But if anything else, I'll let you know. That way we're not all scrambling to know what to do. Rylan Parcell, she's not here right now. She is an assistant that will be with me. I won't be able to be here Tuesdays, but she'll be here. So she will be your next point of contact. I am not here. Again, if there's anything going wrong, you can just reach out to me. I can direct any extra support staff to you at any point in time during the day. We have Jackson Taylor, who is our tech guy for the summer. If you have any issues with tech or anything like that, questions, that's the room number he will be in. And then it's just a little brief synopsis of why you would need to contact, as well as literally anything else you would need to ask me about. And then this is just a gigantic roster of every single kid we have as of like 3 p.m. today that is registered for the program. It is pretty small, but as you can see, it is 3 pages. So I tried to make it big without making it a 6-page document. Right here is all the general supplies you will get in your classroom. They will be given to you on that first day when you get here. It will be in your class ready for you. Everything that will be in there. You don't have to really do this, but if you want to know that you have it, and if you're missing anything, you let me know. If you need anything else for your class, you can also let me know and we can order it for you. This big agenda right here on that first fold out, this is a detailed schedule of kind of where you'll be, what will be going on, what you should be doing, and essentially how that transition will work when the day ends and we'll switch over to the afternoon. It also has the dates at the top, and then the first page is Schedule 1, so you'll have 2 schedules to choose from. You'll have reading first and then math, or on the back side of this is that second option. It is math and reading. I don't think there's a preference if they have to choose one or the other.
No, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about some other choices in just a minute, so.
Perfect.
You keep going.
And then this is that calendar as well that I was talking about for Session A and then Session B. Enrichment days, you'll see on here, you got like the sun and the water. I know as of now we have, the first session will have the fire department coming in the afternoon on the first Thursday. The second afternoon on Thursday, we'll be having a splash day. So they'll get to play around with some water and stuff like that and have fun. The next one, I believe, is Zoo or Imagination Station?
I don't remember which which. Imagination.
Imagination Station, and then the next one is the zoo. On their last day, they'll also get a treat to kind of celebrate that our 4 weeks being completed. And then on the outside, it's the same thing. The only difference is the first week. Session A gets fire department, and Session B gets the police department to come out and talk to them and have some fun with them. And then you'll see all these fun forms. These are what we use in the afternoon, what we use for the STARS program. They're not necessarily what you'll be using, but if you do need them, you will have access to these forms, and these are examples of how they'll be filled out. The one that you will need to know is this injury form. If anyone has a cut or needs an ice pack, we do have to record that because we are using inventory and we have to track that inventory with that. One big thing to note about injuries, if anyone bumps their head, hits the back of their neck, their back, anything in that area, we do have to call home just to let parents know that that did happen so they can monitor it at home.
Which Lainey will be doing, so
Yes,
Lainey.
I will be doing that.
Yep,
That's why I
Lainey will
need
be
this.
collecting all these paperworks at the end of the day to contact parents,
Correct.
that's not your responsibility, that
If
you
I
have.
would just need to know what happened, that way when I call, I'm not just making something up. The next one is the discipline. This is how we kind of monitor behavior in the classroom. And in the afternoon, it's more of track of kind of the behavior situation, if there's any patterns with certain kids. That way we have a record of it. Again, you probably won't be using these, but you will have access to them. And then the next one is a concern form. A big thing with concern forms is parents would never know that this is filled out. If you do fill one out, you would just give it to me and I put it right in their file, and that is that, unless they talk about anything regarding suicide. At that point, I would have to let the parent know that they did mention something like that. Besides that, a big thing in the summer is kids that kind of repeat the same outfits every single day in the summer. That is something that would be noteworthy. A kid that has a bruise that they come to school with and they're very nervous when they talk about this bruise. It's just anything that would be concerning to you as to why we might need to put it in their file for our records. And then in this last little pocket is the room numbers for each grade. And I did steal this from Mark. Yep, it's just got room numbers, and then it has also the room numbers that safety time will be in. Is there any questions about anything in this folder?
Lainey, can we go over a little bit more detail on what our day looks like for the teachers from when they arrive?
Do that a little bit for you. to
Okay,
know.
all right. Sounds good.
No questions?
So, if any of you have been with us in prior years, you know that you filled out a timesheet to turn into Lainey and or the person in her role. However, our WCSE, which is our fiscal agent, has decided to go to an electronic way of submitting timesheets. Unfortunately, that process is set to start June 6th. So it will likely have some hitches. So we are going to encourage you, and I have extra forms if you want them, to keep a paper copy. We are not requiring you, because if you don't want to do double duty, that's okay. But we would strongly encourage, since this is a new system and since we may not be able to anticipate any bumps along the way, that you keep a hard copy of your hours to turn in. And I think, could we go ahead then?
Yeah.
Taylor? And we have a short video that shows you, there's a handy dandy app that you can load onto your phone.
Welcome to this Red Rover video on clocking times and submitting timesheets. Red Rover helps your school district record your clock in and clock out times each day. Your district may allow you to clock your times in one or more of the following ways: the kiosk clock, the application clock, or manual entry. For districts that enable only the kiosk clock, you will need to clock in and clock out on devices designated by the district as you arrive and leave work. Depending on how your district has set up Red Rover Time, the kiosk clock will allow you to log in various ways. You can type in your identifier or badge code number and press the green clock in button. If your district utilizes QR codes, you can clock in by tapping the Scan with Camera link and then aligning your personal QR code with the camera's guides. Finally, some districts will allow you to clock into a Red Rover kiosk by tapping your RFID badge, often your electronic door key, to an RFID scanner connected to the kiosk. In each scenario, Red Rover will let you know that you've successfully clocked in or clocked out. Some employees may also be able to clock in and out using Red Rover's website and mobile app. If permitted by the district, you can log into the Red Rover website, app.redroverk12.com, and clock in or out by tapping the clock icon in the upper right-hand corner. This is called the application clock. There, Red Rover will let you choose to clock in or out. Some districts may require your device to be connected to the school's network in order to be able to clock in or out. If that is the case, be sure to switch your internet connection to the school's network before logging into Red Rover. Finally, some employees may be able to manually enter their times or update any missing clock times in their timesheet on the Red Rover website and mobile app. Once again, log into Red Rover at app.redroverk12.com and click Timesheets in the main menu. There, Red Rover will display the timesheet of your current pay period and automatically expand the current week. To view other weeks in the pay period, click that week's drop-down. You can manually enter your clock in and clock out times. You can also tap the Quick Add icon if you want to enter your standard start and end times. If a break time should be automatically included, Red Rover will add it after the clock in and clock out times are added. Otherwise, include any break times and notes. Once your time entries are complete for a pay period, you can submit your timesheet by clicking on the green Submit button in the upper right-hand corner of the timesheet. If you do not submit your timesheet, Red Rover will automatically submit the timesheet for approval as is at the Submit By cutoff time set up by your district. So there you have it, clocking times and submitting timesheets, brought to you by Red Rover.
And just so you know, you will be receiving an email from, I'm not sure if it will be Stephanie Dyer or if it will be Alex Bucco from our office, who will let you know that you have a 4-digit code or however many digit code, or allow you to, you will be emailed your code. We can't have you try to download it on your phones and work with it right now because you're not all entered yet. So we will provide you more information, but in the meantime, that little booklet that I gave you will be a hard copy reference for you. So we'll work with you on that as we get a little closer to time. But as far as when to submit, if you look on your schedules sheet that we handed out that is not part of the lovely manual that Elaine created, at the very top is our pay period, and it shows you when the last day of the pay period is, and you would need to submit by that Friday of the last pay period so that we can approve you by the following Monday. Yes.
I think that some of the beginning dates might be cut off for this, because it says.
Really, let's see, so, actually, you're right, so I will send you another one.
Or we can just write it on there if you know,
I don't have it in front of me, but
Okay.
basically it would be two weeks.
Yeah.
Like if you go 2 weeks back, it's that same pattern. Thank you for pointing that
Yeah.
out.
I mean, I've worked for the county before, I just wanted to point that out for other people.
Yes, thank you. So, well, yeah, we'll have to send you the June dates.
Will our personal devices have to be connected to the private server or the public server?
It won't matter. We will not make it so that it matters. And you will be able, you don't have to clock in and clock out at that exact time. Like if you forget to clock out, or declare your time, it's okay. You can do it from home later. If you clock in and forget to clock out, but try to clock in again, it won't let you do that till you clock out. But you'll be able to do that anytime until the submission date. It will also send you a reminder, like if you forget to catch up your timesheet 24 hours ahead of time, it'll send you a reminder if you program it to, I think it'll default to email, but if you want to program it to send to your phone too, you'll have that option when you are set up in Red Rover. And I know you've been working with Stephanie Dyer for your required documents and things like that. So if you have any questions about your Red Rover access that I believe you had to set up through her, I'll direct you to her for that. I don't want to spend a ton of time on the pay, but if there are any questions that you think is for the good of all, feel free. Know that your hour today will count. And just so you know, Mark, those who can't make it, we're recording it, so that, and for them to have it count, I'll have them come to the ESC so we can document. You will also be granted 9 additional hours to today for prep. And that's regardless of if you are in a single session or a double, if you teach both. Because essentially, you're repeating, if you're doing 2 sessions, you will be prepping for the same lessons twice. They'll be identical for each session. Embedded in your allotted hours that you can declare if you're just a morning person and not teaching afternoon, excuse me, you have a half an hour prep time before, half-hour prep time built in after, so 8:30 to 12:30 is what we would be able to pay you for your morning session. So,
And just know, I know, if you've done this in the past, you know, and I've talked to some of you online, where, you know, if it's a day you have to leave right away as soon as you take the kids down at 12:05, we know you're putting that time in elsewhere. So basically put in for your 4 hours every day, put in for the 10 hours, the 1 hour today, the 9 hours of prep. Do it, because I'm sure there'll be times you are thinking about summer school or working on it and don't think to maybe officially log in. So put those hours in, we budgeted for it. So.
and again, I would put it on the paper form as well as in the system, just in case. So, all right. Any questions about that? And if you, just so you know, if you compare timesheets, everybody is paid at a different rate based on what we have record of your degree and participation in prior years. So
Some of you have done this for a long time.
So we're not all at the same pay scale, and that we're abiding by Rossford, and it's kind of a combination of Rossford and WCSC. So yeah. So if you have any questions about your pay rate, you can direct those to me. And I think Lainey's already covered in the parent packet. Anything else that you want to say for that section, Lainey?
I mean, the parent packets, again, won't get here towards the afternoon, so I think that's.
And then, I think you went over everything in the teacher packet. So I think we're done with 3 unless Mark wants to
Nope, I'm ready.
do that. Okay.
Class rosters. So I think Lainey was able to give each of you the latest names we had. So just a few notes. Some groups are bigger than others. That always happens. First session, I only have the first session on the agenda right now because that's obviously the one that's starting in a couple weeks. Kindergarten only has 6 students. For that first session, we have 2 teachers assigned there. So those 2 teachers, and off the top of my head, I can't remember. Sarah and I think it's Alexandria. Like if you totally want to work together with those 6 students in one room, and that's why when she was talking about the different schedule options, if you want to work together, and like I said, you both help with ELA, you both help with math, great, fine. If you're like, I'll take 3 to my room, that's where there's more flexibility. And then when you get to, first grade, right now we're showing 11 students. It's right on that cusp of, we try to keep class sizes around no more than 12. 10 to 12 is kind of ideal. So again, Metzger and Garvin, there's always some outliers and those kinds of things, but, and like I said, third grade's kind of in the same situation where I think it would make sense to have a couple. And then once you get to 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, again, you start to get to that, well, so really I would suggest if your other teacher is here, and when we give you time to kind of chat and do things, you can kind of decide that today if you want. One thing that I forgot to point out was everybody's contact information here. So we'll make sure to share that with you. So if your person's not here or you want to continue the conversation later, you can send each other emails and decide how best to divide and conquer ELA and math. However, we do recommend, like the schedule recommends, that reading will get a little bit more time than math. We recommend at least 75 minutes for the reading, 60 for math. I'm going to kind of jump ahead a little bit because it just naturally goes with this. So I say 75 minutes for reading, 60 minutes for math. Once you see the scholastic materials and the recommended lesson plans and the recommended pacing guides, those are guides. You can chop away. You will not, because I think they even recommend like 90 minutes for each of them. And we told them, well, we're not going to get that much time per subject. So when you look at the materials, again, whether you're working on your own or with somebody else, you can start to decide, okay, we're going to shrink down this part of the lesson. Instead of 10 minutes, we're going to spend 5 minutes. Or you know what, we're not going to do the writing portion every day, we'll do something else. So there is flexibility in that. This is our first year using this program. We just thought with all the changes going on, let's provide this foundation of materials, and then you can kind of do what you want with them. As Lainey was saying, if you start looking into lessons and you realize there's something that you would really like to have for a lesson that's not in the supply list, reach out to her and or me, and we'll make it happen. Obviously right now, the toughest thing is turnaround. Amazon, knock on wood, has been pretty good for the school districts. Sometimes we have to call them and we'll actually text them or whatever and say something's really urgent, and then they get it sent to us. So keep that in mind too. But again, once you start looking at your lessons, if there's something that you would really like to have, let us know. So while we're kind of on that topic, and in a few minutes we'll let you go dig away if you want to. There's a bunch of boxes out in the hall, you may have seen them. The boxes in the fronts are Lit Camp. Those are your reading materials. And the nice thing is pretty much there's a bunch of fiction and excuse me, fiction and nonfiction books. So you can dig through, especially once you get towards the older grades, you're going to find a lot more chapter books to go along with your lessons. The younger grades, not so much. Obviously, look at the numbers. Depending on the grade level, there's different amounts of the books. So you might have to have, sometimes kids maybe share the same book next to each other. And depending on your class size, you might be able to say, choose your own. We do ask that you try to not send anything home that's going to be reused. Obviously, just to remind the kids to take care of things. We are looking, one thing I was doing just a minute ago was looking at numbers. We might have to try to place an additional small order for that second session just to make sure we have enough of everything. Because until we had enrollment truly come in, we're guessing based on previous year's numbers on how much to order. So we were pretty good for most of them. But there's a few, I think, like I said, for second session, we might run short. There's the teacher manuals, students have workbooks. So I should show you, I guess. So for example, each of the ELA boxes or the sets of materials, they call them leader's guides. Those are pretty much your teacher manuals. And they're color coded. The one I'm holding, I picked the older grades on purpose. This was grades 8 and 9. So some of you maybe at the higher ends, if you have students who are proficient or maybe above proficient and maybe need some of the more challenging books available from the gold level, that's fine. There's worksheets in the back that you can make copies of, which made me think earlier I need to talk to our tech department again. In the past, well, if you're a teacher here, you already have a fob. Does anybody know in the past, if you've been here not as an official teacher, if they've given you fobs? Taylor, do you remember in the past if teachers have had to make copies?
No, we just always let each other in, really.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, here you go.
Yeah, yeah.
Alright, so, cause our copiers do use the fobs,
Yeah.
we don't track numbers or anything like that, it's just to give you access to it.
Yeah, I think
So-
everybody just helped each other out, so.
And I know the office, I'll check with the office, you might be able to keep one, like, if there's that one already, like the top drawer,
Mhm.
for people to have access to.
And if it is an emergency, we do have a voucher also in the CLC office. So if it is an emergency and there's someone around, you can reach out and they can print it for you.
But again, there's a bunch of these types of books, both fiction and nonfiction for all grades. So again, that's kind of your ELA basics of materials. And then you get to math. Math, you're gonna see, again, here's a teacher's guide. The students, everything's color coded again. The students also have workbooks that they can write in, so feel free to use those. And again, there are lessons. Feel free, again, to go through there and go, you know what? I'm not gonna have time for the independent partners 2 part of the lesson, cross it out, and don't worry about it. But they seem to be pretty good. We have a reading specialist look through some materials, and they went with these. And for the upper grade, so every grade level pretty much you'll see workbooks, the teacher materials. Some of the younger grades you'll also see fiction books, or excuse me, more nonfiction books that go along with your math as well. So you might be reading about the number 3 and then having a lesson on it, or on addition, subtraction. So it's kind of nice that they kind of incorporate both ELA and math. And then once you get to, I think, 3rd grade, besides the workbooks, you will also have 10 copies each of the set of magazines. I think some grade levels are called Dynamath. This one's just called Scholastic Math. And these have their own, like teacher guides, answer keys, and so on. So you might see, it might, in this manual, refer to the math magazine or Dynamath, and what they're talking about are these. So again, these are all in the boxes in the hallway. And I would say try to reuse these from, from session 1. I don't think they're asking the kids to really write and do much in here. If they do, it's not the end of the world. But obviously, we're going to remember some things. But any questions? Kind of, that's a really broad overview. Yes.
So since the students are like rising into the grade they're coming to,
Yeah.
are we covering previous grade standards or new standards?
So you're going to be, for the most part, covering the grade they're kind of coming into. When we looked at the program, it's kind of a blend. So if you look at your rosters, and if you're familiar with the Earl and stuff, you'll see depending on your roster,
Yes.
some are like, oh, some kids are above grade level.
Not much.
So, so you might actually then want to sneak a peek at the books or the materials for the next grade level, and see and work with those teachers. Like, hey, can I borrow or the level
previous
below?
one.
Yeah, or the
Okay.
level below. Because when it comes to the ELA materials, there almost is an extra set, because the way they do it, it's like pre-K into K, K into 1. So in the end, we actually have almost like a high-end box. So there's room to kind of go back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah. Just kind of, again, work with each other. Send an email like, hey, is it okay if I take some of these books from you, because maybe they don't need all of them.
Okay.
And once you get started with students, you might realize like, ooh, some of this might be a little too difficult. I need to drop down a little bit.
If we are only teaching one session, do we have materials there we can pull from for planning, or do we have to leave those for the first session and then?
There should be, because I just went through everything, there should be definitely enough of like the teacher manuals and things. When it comes to the actual books, I'm trying to think, let me look at my numbers again. I would say when it comes to the actual books, you could borrow them. Like if you're session 2, you could borrow them to plan, but I would say to have them back at the school. Because those boxes are, if you don't take anything with you, like some people will, those boxes are going to stay there for the next couple of weeks, basically. So if you do want to take something with you, because I get that, you might want, you probably are, you're going to want to actually be looking at the books that you're planning for. So you can take a set with you, and then, like I said, especially if you're session 2, have those back in the boxes before June 6th. Any other questions? Okay. Right. Is everybody okay with work with each other as far as like, we want one classroom or two classrooms, or, you know. I guess sometimes that can be kind of awkward to do that, or,
I had another question.
yeah,
Okay, I think this might have been on your agenda, so I'm sorry if I'm jumping.
no, you're okay.
So our class, since we're third grade, we obviously have a large roster.
Yes.
And it would make more sense based on what we're seeing to keep them separate because of levels and whatever.
Sure.
But are you opposed to us teaching one subject and switching?
Oh, what'd you say? No, I'm not opposed to that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Because I know I said that to many people when I kind of interviewed them. So again, the question was like, if I want to do both groups of ELA or reading, and the other teacher wants to do math twice, totally fine.
Okay.
Yep. That's decided between you. We're not going to come in and say you have to do one way or the other, because I totally get that. And you might after a couple days say, never mind, let's go back the other way. But that would be totally fine as well. Okay. Any other questions like that? Calm down.
Sorry. We're here all summer.
Yeah.
Lighting's not on.
Okay.
It's in second session. So they only put the first session. Okay. I am. Right, and I'm second session, so we're the same person. Okay. In the same.
Oh, I'm gonna use
Did you guys get this one too?
Maybe I'll just say there's.
Yeah, Judy just brought it
None of us got this.
Yeah.
I think.
So wait, maybe this is
So,
long then.
so just to give you an idea of the AM schedule, if you want it at a glance, here's sort of a table form or what it would look like. It's at the bottom of the sheet that has the incomplete pay, periods. So, that's what the AM schedule looks like. Even though there's a PM on the back, if you're not teaching PM, you can ignore everything on the back. But if you are interested, just so you know what the kids are doing, we included it. And then Lainey can go over it.
To essentially go into depth, we get kids at 8:45 to 9 o'clock. That is the drop-off time, and when the buses will come, they drop off the kids. So we should all be definitely in the gym area by 8:45. CLC will be open at 6:30, so if for any reason anyone gets dropped off at like 8:30, I will definitely be there. But before then, we will all be ready by 8:45. When the students come in, I myself will be at the parent pickup line to let in all the kids, to let them know they need to go to the gym. Miss Ryland, that will be here, she will be at the bus loop. That way she can let in all the kids that are getting off the bus to come in to go to the gym. When they then come into the gym, it will be kind of chaos, definitely that first day. I'm gonna get lanyards, that way when they come in, you can ask their name, and they will each get their own lanyard. It will have their name, if they are parent pickup, busing, STAR students, grade level, who the teacher is, all that good stuff. That way, we'll know where they're supposed to be at all times, and we can point them to which teacher they're supposed to go to.
Yep.
When they then come in and have that lanyard, they will then sit by you and just kind of wait for everyone to roll in. Once you have then everyone in your class there, you can then go ahead and make your way to your classroom. But on your way to the classroom, I'll have a table set up where they can grab a milk, a fruit, and their cereal and breakfast, whatever that will be there, will already be in your classroom for you. I will bring that in for you, that way they'll be taken care of. Stop, let them wash their hands, but you will have hand sanitizer too for any kids that might have sensory issues with hand washing. So then you'll go in, they'll eat breakfast for about that 15-minute time period. So now we're looking at about 9:15 after they eat. And then you would start your first kind of allotted area for a lesson, whether it's reading, math, whatever you would choose to do at that time. And then they do get a 30-minute break between each kind of period. So you will be able to use the playground out there besides, what day is that? June 7th will not be used the playground. But at that 30-minute time period, you'll be able to go out to the playground and have them run around and get some wiggles out. That way they're not just stagnant in a classroom all day during the summer, because that's when their behavior would start to ramp up. Once you kind of have that 30 minutes to kind of run around, play, you could then bring them inside to start that next kind of allotted time period. So now we're looking at about 12 o'clock is when that final kind of period for the lesson ends. So now we're at 12 o'clock, and this is where it's going to get very crazy. So 7th and 8th graders are going to be leaving at 12 o'clock or 12:30. The parents have an option to pick up at 12 o'clock, but we did let them know that if they want their child to stay and eat lunch with us, they can leave at 12:30. We will also have a bus that they'll be able to get on at 12:30. That way they'll eat lunch and then get on the bus and go home. Our staff will do that, so do not worry about that, but they do leave. They don't stay for the afternoon. But then at the exact same time as that, Stars will be eating lunch in the cafeteria at 12 o'clock. Our kids are gonna go outside to do another 30-minute time period of this outdoor wiggle remover. So now we're at 12 o'clock. So you're gonna bring then your class down at 12 o'clock to the gym and just kind of leave them with us. And if you have any forms from the day, you would give it to me then. Then you would be able to leave at 12 o'clock once you drop them off back to your classroom if you need to do any prep for the next day, turn in that time stuff, anything. That will be your 30-minute time period then from 12 to 12:30. And then they eat lunch 12:30 to 1. I know that's a lot of information. Does anyone have any questions? Trying to simplify it as much as possible.
Lainey did a great job also breaking this down for you in your folder. We learned
Well, I
last
wrote it all
year
down.
the hard way. So we worked out a lot of kinks last year. So this year should be a pretty smooth transition.
Yeah, and just know that the way that the registration was, it was defaulted to the child staying all day, with the only exceptions being the 7th and 8th graders and any parents who may have indicated that they wanted a midday pickup, which I don't think is very,
Yeah, usually it's not.
Yeah.
It's just like a point.
yeah. So, the expectation is that the child stays the entire day.
And I made a couple notes there. One, we'll probably try to get a copy, both physical copies to have here and send an electronic copy of a map of the building. Today, after we're done, if you want to kind of wander around, maybe looking for different room numbers, take a peek. If you go down this really long hallway, to your left, you'll eventually run into the gym and cafeteria. If you continue going straight, you'll hit some outside doors that take you to the playground. Just be warned though, they will lock behind you. So if you go all the way out, you may not get back in.
And make sure you stop by the CLC office in your tour because that's where Lainey will be kind of stationed and Rylan will be stationed. So you'll want to be very familiar with where that space is at. Also too, just to chime in off of what Lainey said too, in that morning transition, it is only Lainey and Rylan. So it is very important that after you guys get settled in your room that you all come down to the gym to help with the gathering and the rush of all the students. That is where, everybody will be lining up and getting ready and taking attendance and everything like that. And I think last year it took us a couple days for everybody to get the hang of things. And then again in the afternoon when you drop the kids down, you'll be handing your class over to a program assistant. And so, like Lainey said, that is the perfect time to tell them, hey, we had Mason today and he had a really rough day. Watch out for this afternoon. And so that's your time to communicate with Lainey and the program assistants when you guys do that switch over. Also too, Lainey put, I believe in your paperwork, we're in charge of, the teachers are in charge of pulling their trash, correct Lainey?
All you
So,
have to do would be just bag it, and then beyond that, it would just be us.
yep. So obviously making sure the room is tidied up. Make sure too that they're not throwing cereal down the sinks. So, that was not fun last year. So if they, want to drain out their milk or something like that, make sure you're watching your sinks because we cleaned a lot of sinks last year. So no Fruit Loops down the drain. And then you're just gonna bag your trash like Lainey said and set it in the hallway and they'll come and collect.
There was a cart that we put it in last year.
Yeah.
So I don't know, the big blue carts that the custodians use, I don't know if that's easier for you.
Yeah.
I think the rooms might have been a little closer last year than this year, but if there's a cart, it was easy to just throw it in the cart.
I think they were working that out if they were gonna provide those carts or not. I know the big blue recycling ones that you're talking. Yeah. So we'll confirm with Sarah and Charlotte about that. So.
Yeah, and so there will be, obviously, if there's a mess or a cleanup that happens during your class in the morning, probably get a hold of Lainey, I would assume first. But then she'll have Sarah and Charlotte are custodians. And again, depending on the day and vacations, they'll reach out to them to come help clean up messes or if a kid gets sick, those kinds of things. Again, I'm gonna communicate with you.
Okay.
Hey, can you still do the afternoon?
Yeah. And could I chime in too, if you do get a sub and it's not expected on the schedule, please let Lainey and I know so that we can make sure that, like, if somebody doesn't fill out a timesheet, we can make sure they get, credit for that time, or that you're not paid, for not being there. So if you could keep Lainey and I in the loop as far as schedule changes, that will help us confirm time cards.
I've already touched on the basic supplies. Again, if you need anything, let us know, especially once you start digging in. Appropriate dress, really, I mean, it's summer. Don't feel like you need to go be formally dressed. Shorts, fine. Flip-flops, fine.
Just know we can't allow our kids to wear flip-flops.
Thank you for saying
So,
that. Because they're running around outside playing. If you plan on doing that, wear tennis shoes. That'd be great.
just know that our kids are told that, so if they, and our parents are told that, so if a child says something, that's fine.
Price wants me to say wear tennis shoes, but I'm not. Sorry, Price. It's one of those things where they still have a class in college where they talk to you about appropriate dress, raise your hands up, bend over, make sure nothing's falling out, all that kind of fun. That's what they did when I went to BG.
They still do.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
they still do.
So just kind of common sense things. But again, it is summer, so I don't expect you to be, guys wearing ties and other people, don't worry about that. I'm already starting to get to my summer. I will slowly transition to collar shorts and more comfortable shoes. Let's see. Facility access. So again, if you're not familiar with the building, there's a big bus loop in the middle between two big sets of doors. Those will be open by 8 o'clock for sure. Again, you can kind of work with each other and like, oh, I locked myself out. Hey, text Lainey, can you let me in? Those kind of things. Try to avoid propping doors open as much as possible. If there's weekend, we have our maintenance guy. He's really good about setting timers on the doors. So if there's a time of day that we're realizing we need these doors open from 12 to 12:32 or whatever, we can always get that arranged. But because there's all kinds of sensors and things that get affected when we prop them open. Tech support, we've kind of already touched on that. Room 105 is really one of these first rooms right down here. There will be Chromebooks in every classroom. So if you're sitting there already thinking, I'm going to do a Google Classroom, all that fun stuff, totally fine. You will also be getting access to a laptop if you're not working for us already. Our tech department, they've been crazy busy the last couple of weeks with collecting Chromebooks and everything. So they have your names. They'll be creating an account for you. So if you need to use our, a Rossford email to communicate with anybody, you can use that for your Google. But if you have your own personal Google account that you've been using to create Google Classroom stuff, that's fine too. But just so you know, you will be getting access to laptops. Kids will have Chromebooks. Every classroom has a Clever Touch, all that kind of fun stuff. I think those are the big things there.
Use forms yours or ours?
Our students do an acceptable use form at the beginning of the year. That's good all year. I'm not worried about adults. Just be smart. I mean, you'll find, depends, like our filter usually will block things like even Facebook and stuff. It kind of comes and goes, I find. But, and also with your personal devices, just, try to be aware of how often you're sitting there looking at your phone if you're working with kids. I know it depends on the person, but obviously we don't want the kids running home and saying, all day today, this is so-and-so sitting on their phone. We don't want that, because they're only with us for a couple hours. I have down so far to make sure we get a list of everybody's contact information to you, which will include the subs. a map of the building, kind of like a floor plan of the building to help you, if you're not familiar with it, to kind of study it maybe before you come back. Anything else that you're for sure like, yeah, we could use this, or I need to know about that. I realize it's very overwhelming, especially if you're new to the building, or you're just graduating, or still getting your degree. I realize that, so don't be afraid to ask those questions.
Are the kids' logins gonna be like given to them?
That's one of the things that I did not ask Tech today when I went over to double check some things with her, because the older kids will probably be very comfortable there.
Right.
It's the younger ones that I'm worried about, like, we need to have a backup list for the teachers to help them be able to log in. So, yes, we will make sure something's available. And even sometimes the older kids will forget, as you know.
Last year we got the index cards with QR codes.
Oh, okay, okay, I'll remind Sandy of that, thank you. Yeah, sorry about that. And then they split them up the iPad and stuff. I should say that, yeah, K1 have iPads. 2 and up have Chromebooks. Isn't it grades 2 and up have Chromebooks?
I think it's.
I think it's 2, or is it 3 now?
Because,
2, thanks, God.
okay.
One time.
But the incoming kindergartners won't have clever logins just yet.
She might be able to do something for them though.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? I don't know 100%. Okay. So like I said, I'll let Lady and Judy say anything else. But when we are done, like I said, if you want to go out, dig through some of the boxes, they are pretty nicely labeled. They have bright stickers that usually say what grade level. So obviously, if you're digging through, try to keep everything contained in those boxes. For the math boxes, just so you know, they're all the same. So if you see 3 math boxes, they're all the same book, same materials. The ELA boxes, you'll see they have different chapter books or different trade books, I should say, in there when you're out there digging through.
For the 9 hours of planning, do you recommend that we fill out the paper or wait till it goes digital and add it to them? Like
I
it's
think,
beforehand of like next week?
so when you declare your 9 hours, you can put it on a timesheet but ultimately we would want you to upload it into the system. That is a really good question.
So maybe as soon as that goes
It
live,
may
put in
be,
your.
Because there's a gap in time. And actually, I was
right,
wrong on this.
that's true, that's true.
Because that first pay date of June 17th, it says through June 17th, which would be the week of June 6th, and
Yeah,
then
right,
through the
right.
17th. So they always used to collect timesheets on Friday, but it says
Yeah,
timesheets
that's
due
a
Monday.
really good question, so let me check on
Well,
that and we'll.
You guys would turn your timesheets in on Thursday on your last shift for the pay period.
Yeah, you would turn it, I know the paper says Monday, but it wouldn't be Thursday.
Because it would still have to be approved through Lainey, then go to Judy, and then get turned in. So
I'm
they'll
thinking
use that buffer.
probably we'll only be able to do paper timesheets for them until the 6th.
Yeah.
So,
So do you want? So is it easier if like we do our 9 hours next week to email this to somebody? Or?
Email it to me.
Okay.
You can email it to me, yeah. You know, my email is right on that one.
So just to clarify, the 9 hours, 10 hours, whatever, 9 hours, besides 1 hour today.
Yep, so this piece of paper.
I'll prep, fill out the
Right
paper
here,
time
right
sheet.
here.
Do you know if it's week 1 or week 2? Like.
It's this week right now is week 1.
Okay, so if we're filling this out,
Yep.
yeah,
declare hours for
week
week
1
2.
is today, and then
Mhm.
any time between now and.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
I have timesheets.
Oh,
if you guys
Take one, pass it on the computer.
Thank you.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's Christine.
Yeah, and so again, if you have any questions, please, I would start with Lainey and Judy first. I've been involved in summer school to some extent as an assistant principal. So I think we're all kind of learning different things. Taylor, thankfully, is sticking around and helping us. Teachers who have been doing this a while, they're very familiar with the hands-on things. So as we get going, don't hesitate to like go up to Price or anybody else and say, hey, how do we do this? Any final thoughts from Judy or Lainey?
you wanna go ahead?
I have something real quick to say.
Taylor, I would love to hear any
Oh.
words of wisdom for them.
No, all I wanted to say was that, last year we have never did a summer school to that extent. I mean, it was a total learning experience for all of us last year. And so by session B, I'd like to think we did a lot better than session A, if anybody was with us. So this year, we have that learning tool that we had because we had a year under our belt. And so if anything is found this year that you're like, man, we could do this better, or this is a great idea, let Lainey know, because we're never gonna keep getting better every year and keep crushing it if we don't, spread some love and wisdom. And so if we find anything along the way that we can fix and do better, don't be scared to, tell Lainey. So that's all I wanted to say. We learned a lot last year, so.
Maybe the only other thing I might add is, although we have closed registration for session A, so we don't anticipate having additions for session A, we did decide to leave it open for session B. So that hopefully we can collect a few more by session B. So for those of you who are involved in session B, we'll have more updated information as far as the roster as we get closer to time, because we are still allowing registrations. We had plenty of room in session B. Like anytime parents said either session, we stuck them in session B. So trying to keep the numbers as even as we could. So we'll see how that works.
And if you're curious, and if you didn't do the math already, we are for sure, now that we've opened session 2 back up, or be pushing 200 students. Last year we were about 220 total. So we're kind of right back there. We really didn't know this year, again, like with COVID kind of being over-ish, we didn't know how that would look. So thank you for your patience and bearing with us. And again, my last thing I should say is it's summer. So obviously, sorry, I got distracted by a bird. There will be, we obviously need classroom management still. You can't ever drop that completely. But at the same time, make sure we're greeting kids with smiles and, hey, thanks for coming, we're glad you're here, all that fun stuff, because we want it to be a positive, and that's why it is open to so many kids. We don't want it to be a punishment if they're coming to a summer school or summer academy. We want them to, hey, it's great to go, we want to go back every year, and we do have students who do that. That's why you will see students who academically probably don't need to be here, but for various reasons, they enjoy coming and their parents appreciate that we offer that.
Having said that, what about attendance issues?
I was just gonna
Same thought?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Taylor, in the past, was there a procedure where one of you would reach out?
Yeah, so if they did not show up that day and Lainey was not notified, then she'll be contacting those parents. There was quite a few parents last year who said, oh yeah, my kids are taking a summer vacation and missed the first 2 weeks of summer school. It was odd. So, but anything like that will go through Lainey. Unfortunately, we don't have anything that says you don't attend so many days and then you have to be removed. We don't have anything like that. But Lainey does make those calls and emails to parents if we don't see the kiddos.
And we do incentivize the attendance to encourage them to want to come. So if they hit I think it's 89, whatever, a large percentage of the days that they're scheduled, they get a reward at the end of the program. It's a reward for everyone, but those especially that kind of attended all those days, they get a special prize.
We don't have that info in our folder though, right?
No, not yet. We're
Okay.
still working.
I mean, certainly I want to roll that out right away to them, but because
So
in the past I've
you can
worked,
remind
attendance is.
And so keeping that in mind, again, I'm sure my Becky's asking, when it comes to planning that, it just makes it difficult.
Yeah.
So as you're making your plans, kind of keep in mind, okay, if I have a kid not show up for this week when I'm focusing on this lesson or whatever, try to keep in the back of your mind, what can I do if they all of a sudden show back up? And everybody else is ready for that next step and they're not. So it's kind of like real teaching. That happens in real teaching too, where kids disappear, even pre-pandemic that happens. So just kind of as you're making those plans, keep in mind, if a kid misses these days, what am I going to have them do when they come back? So, okay. So yeah, feel free, like I said, all the boxes are lined up out there. Thanks for coming, we really appreciate it. If you have any questions, definitely reach out to us. Thank you.